Well, believe it or not, this is session 5 of the Big Invitation, and the title of tonight's study is Seeing as God Sees. It's taken from Matthew 9:35 to Matthew chapter 10, verse 1. You're probably familiar with the words that Jesus, when he saw the crowds, he had compassion on them because he saw them as sheep without a shepherd. He saw them as people who had no direction in life, and the Bible says that they were harassed and helpless. And they were all over the place, if you want to put it that way. And his heart was filled with compassion for them. What do you see is a question that God asks various people on different occasions throughout the Bible. It's a very good question. What do you see? When you look around you, what do you see? Do you just see bunches of people going about their business, going about everyday life? Or do you see real individuals with real needs? Obviously, when Jesus saw the crowds, he responded in such a way that he felt something of what was going on in their lives and what was going on in their hearts. He saw them as sheep without a shepherd. When we see as Jesus sees, when we begin to look at the world around us through God's eyes, we cannot help but have our hearts filled with compassion. After we're told this about Jesus, we're then told that Jesus says to his disciples that they should pray that the Lord of the harvest would send labourers into his harvest field, because the harvest is plentiful and the labourers are few. I don't know about you, but when I look out, not just on the world, but even on our own city, in fact, even in the area where I live, I think the harvest is so great. In fact, Jesus says it's plentiful and there's very, very few people to bring that harvest in. There's a sense in which when we look around us and begin to see the world through God's eyes and allow our hearts to be filled with compassion, that we can feel overwhelmed by the need that exists in the world and in the world that we live in. I think we're meant to respond in that way. I think that's the way Jesus wants us to respond. He wants us to feel something of the overwhelming possibility, overwhelming impact of the huge harvest that's around us. And of course then he says that they should pray. The only response to the great need that there is around us, the overwhelming need that there is around us, is first of all to pray. I don't know if you're feeling that about where you live, the people that you mix with, and even the city that you live in. Maybe you're feeling, I have so much compassion, I just don't know what to do. Well, the first thing that you can do is pray. Then as we turn over to verse 1 of chapter 10, we find that Jesus takes things a stage further. He commissions his disciples and he sends them out to preach and to heal. Because of the way our Bibles are divided up, you could get the impression that this is something completely separate from what has gone on before. But I think there's a connection. I think that what Jesus does in verse 1 of chapter 10 is a direct result of the disciples' prayers at the end of chapter 9. If you begin to pray for your world, if you begin to pray for the people in your world, you might just find that God provides you as part of the answer to bringing in the great harvest. So, what do you see? Who have you a heart for? Why don't you get praying? Pray into that harvest. Pray about those people that you're concerned about. And you never know, God might take you into his harvest field in ways that you couldn't imagine.